Hello everyone and welcome to week 13. This week opens up our final unit of the semester, which focuses on some of the bigger picture aspects of library operations. Last week and last unit, we focused on some of the very minute details of information retrieval, right? Searching for specific books, looking at databases, and then fine-tuning our internet search skills. Now, this week, we're going to expand a little bit and take a look at the library as a whole. This week, we'll be learning about some of the more logistical considerations for libraries, including how we get the bills paid, how staff are trained, and how libraries work with outside vendors to acquire all of the materials and resources that we need to provide services to our communities. We'll also be learning about outreach, which is a term that's used to describe how libraries connect directly with their existing patrons about services and resources. Outreach also intends to engage new library users to help expand the library's impact in a community. And so outreach can look like things such as emails. Emails are huge at an academic library, right? You can send out information to an entire team of faculty. We see outreach being conducted using social media nowadays. And we also rely on one of the more traditional old school methods of outreach, which is paper-based flyers or signage. So we'll be learning a little bit more about that this week. You'll notice that this week's readings were pulled from multiple chapters in our online textbooks that you've already encountered. I put these specific sections aside because I knew that I wanted us to look at some of the more administrative aspects of the library during this week titled Library Operations. The type of library will determine who is responsible for overseeing things like the library budget, purchasing supplies, and developing an outreach plan. For example, at public libraries, you'll usually see the branch manager managing the budget, sharing out reports about how much money's left in the budget, and explaining how much each department has to spend on things like books, supplies, and program materials. At academic libraries, there's usually a dean that helps manage the budget and take care of other administrative issues like working with vendors. At Santa Ana College, the library is part of the Department of Academic Affairs, which means we are overseen by the Dean of Academic Affairs, who is the direct supervisor of all librarians and library support staff. School libraries will likely be overseen by a vice principal or even a teacher at some places. And for special libraries, the library operations we'll be learning about this week are often taken care of by a library director or executive director, depending on the size of that special library. This week's journal does reference the chapter 3 planning section directly, so please pay special attention to this part of the reading. Especially the tab titled Budgeting. There are some definitions for specific types of budgets and processes that a library support staff might encounter while working at the library. And so this week's journal focuses on library budgets and also asks you to review an ALA fact sheet, which you can access right here on the journal instruction page. It's called the Library Operating Expenditures, a Selected Annotated Bibliography. This is a report that basically summarizes the main funding sources for 3 out of the 4 major types of libraries. You don't need to read the entire report, although there is some really good information about how libraries are funded contained in this report. The journal just asks you to choose one of the 3 library types included in the report, which include public libraries, academic libraries, and school libraries. Then answer the questions about the major funding sources for one of those library types. Special libraries are not included in this list, but because most special libraries are nonprofit organizations, the majority of their funding comes from a variety of grants. I found a really good definition for what a grant is through Wikipedia. A grant is a fund given by a person or organization, often a public body, aka government source, a charitable foundation, a specialized grant-making institution, or in some cases, a business with a corporate social responsibility mission. One of the main points about a grant is that you do not have to pay it back, right? It is a gift from these very powerful and wealthy organizations who have some responsibility to give back to their communities. For this week's discussion, you'll answer a few questions about how libraries can improve their image and better reach a wider audience through outreach. You'll also create a simple sign that either advertises a library program or service, communicates an important policy, or shares an urgent update to a change in library operations. I shared a few examples of signs that one of our library clerks made to explain why we have a bunch of deselected books just sitting in the lobby of Neely Library. We have shelves of books in the lobby that are part of a free books program that one of our librarians developed. Instead of throwing away or discarding perfectly good books, we as a library team decided we can choose to put out books that are in good condition and that aren't too out of date for our students and community members to take home. So you'll see in the sign that the program is clearly named, right? Free books. And then there's specific instructions for how the public can interact with these books, right? Help yourself, take as many as you like. If you have questions, please see the librarian at the reference desk. The second sign encourages community members who are non-students who wish to use the library to check in with library staff at the front desk, aka circulation desk. This provides us an opportunity to issue community members a library card and share the library standards of conduct with everyone. This is part of a new workflow where we have identified a very dire need to communicate to the public that we do have standards of conduct at our library, and everyone who uses the library is held to those same standards. Both of these signs were made using Canva, but you don't need any special software to create your sign for this discussion. You could use Microsoft Word to create a text-based sign, or you could even handwrite or draw a sign if you're short on time or would just rather create a sign that way. Another option for this assignment is to put together a draft social media post instead of a sign. You're not required to actually make the post using one of your accounts. Instead, you can just screenshot a draft of the post as you're putting it together and share that in the discussion. That's pretty much it for assignments this week. You have your readings, a journal, and our weekly discussion. The last thing I wanted to share with you all is that I am very close to releasing the complete instructions for the final project. I'll be sending out an announcement in a day or two once that is ready, and you'll see it appear under the coming up section at the bottom of week 13. Then I'll be opening up the rest of the course through week 16, including the final project assignment page by this weekend. That's all I have for today. We are very close to the finish line for this semester. I hope you all are doing well. Have a great week and reach out via Canvas inbox with any questions you may have. Okay, bye.